Fasting. That's what we're talking about.
What's going on, everybody? This
What
is
up, y'all?
Jeffy.
This is Ruben.
Hi, and welcome to the Hidden Health Podcast. Here, back at the Spartan Journals, where Ruben and I are discussing our journey towards a half marathon, followed directly by a 10K obstacle course race at Spartan in February 2021. That is, of course, if we all make it there.
That's dark. That was
uh,
dark real quick.
make sure to vote. Anyway, uh, anyway, we are here, and as always, as we have already been talking about for the last couple of weeks, fasting. Right before we jumped into it off camera, we have apparently both decided to make some more shifts in that direction. So, Ruben, why don't you go first since you were already jumping in on that?
Yeah, so what I was gonna tell you, so those fasts, so I did 136, 124 hour. Funny enough, it's always good to have a partner because they're like, why do you need to go that long without eating? It's just like, well, because it's challenging, it's all these things. But I noticed that when I did I believe it was Friday. I did one of the strength and conditioning days, and I was just coming off a fast, or at least I was gonna come off after I worked out, and it was hot. I was outside. I was in we have like a tennis court area, which is where it was a lot of like body weight. So I was like, cool. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have any weight. I think it was like I just did the workout, but I felt weak. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like I can't perform. Like I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
perform. I was swinging the kettlebell, which for me, like kettlebell swings with my kettlebell, which is 44 pounds, folks, is not light. But usually I can do 20, 5 rounds of 20 swings, no problem. I was struggling. I was just like, I haven't struggled doing kettlebell swings in like
Mm-hmm.
more than a month. I'm like, why do I feel so weak? And then when I did my sprints, I felt like my speed was off because I had to do sprints at the end of that strength and conditioning, and I was just off. I was sore all week, which hasn't been something regular. So I was just like, Like I did two really long fasts. First the 36-hour on Monday, which was fine. But that second 24-hour that I didn't do 36 again. I did only 24. I felt it. Like I felt a little bit of weakness. I don't know if it was because of the heat. I made sure to get my electrolytes in, so there wasn't like I was sure there wasn't a problem there, but there was something there. So after that, I was just like, I might just stick to my 18 to 20, like on those, or as far as I can go 24. Um, but maybe it was because I broke the fast at a different time, so I kind of like already woke up in a fasted state. These are the thoughts that were coming to me. I was just like, you know what? when when you work out, just pop in a few blueberries, which is something that I usually do, and it really helps. It really helps me. I don't know about you, but I pop some blueberries in my mouth, and I'll wait like 10 minutes, and then I'll go for my run or I go do my strength and conditioning, and I'm solid. Um, and then I'll eat the bigger meal after, like an hour after I work out. I don't immediately eat because I never feel hungry right after a workout. So yeah, that was kind of like the struggle I went through. So I was just like, do I really
What were
need it?
you what were you talking about with Mike's post? Mike Munsel's post?
So he posted something about like apparently a new study came in that they follow people for about 8 weeks. I haven't watched the full video, but basically they studied these people for 8 weeks and they put some folks, I guess one group on an 18-hour fast and one group on a 20 plus hour fast. And apparently it was the data came back the same. Like there's no
Mm,
difference. And so you can do an 18-hour fast and it's just as beneficial as if you do a 24-hour fast. You're still getting the
mm,
autophagy, you're still getting all those things. While for health reasons, like I think longer term fast is good for the mental portion of side of things,
mm.
but maybe those longer fasts, especially for what we're doing, is unnecessary because
But
we
they only measured up to 20 hours. They didn't do a full day.
Yeah, I believe so. I
Yeah.
didn't, once again, guys, I didn't watch the full videos. I don't know all the details yet. Um, but I was like getting into, I just saw, he just posted it like about an hour and a half ago. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
we'll include it in the show notes.
yes.
Um,
So yeah, what about you? How fasting? went this week. You got your result. There's a lot in your side of things.
Yes, yes. So I'm just leaving a note for show notes because I think there'll be a few on this one. Yeah, so I don't want to go too deep. Well, and this will actually go back to what you just said because I'm curious about a few things because I have had an interesting week that up to this morning actually I've sort of shifted my mindset in a couple ways that I'm excited to see how things move forward and interested to hear your thoughts on it. So first, what I'll say is that, as some of you may already know, if you don't know, that I have recently gotten a full panel test. I did upwards of 6 or 7 plus blood tests. I did 3 days worth of stool tests and a urine test to check out what's going on with my gut, what's going on with any potential allergies or sensitivities I have, what nutrients I may be deficient in. And it was awesome. Majority of the data has gone back, but not all of it. We're still waiting to get a full biopsy on my gut health. So there's, a strong amount of information that will change the course of some things moving forward. But I got a lot of great information on my diet and what nutrition deficiencies I might have. And once I have all the data, we'll dive all the way into that. But what I will say is because of this, I cannot, or I don't know if I can or not. I didn't ask Boomer, but this is just my assumption that to heal my vitamin deficiencies, I need to take supplements. And I don't want to be fasting because then I can't do like 36-hour fast because then I go a day without taking these supplements that are meant to, support those nutrient deficiencies. So I'll be cutting back on the 36-hour fast that I would typically do every start of the week to just a 24-hour fast, which I'm in the midst of right now. But it's funny, man. Like, it's funny how quick you can adapt to things, like and not only adapt, but also like how quickly your ego gets attached to things. Because now I'm like, oh, I'm not doing a 36-hour fast. Like, fuck, like that's my thing. That's how so I'm only doing 24 hours. Like, it's so crazy how the mind can play games on you. I digress. Anyway, so that's that. But again, we'll be going into the full panel probably, if not this coming week, in the next few weeks, we'll dive all the way into what that turned out to be. But it was very fruitful, a very interesting conversation, and I learned some amazing things about myself that there just would have been no other way to do that. And I'm super excited to see how this. Because one of my biggest complaints was energy. Like, my energy, I always felt like there was energy there that I just couldn't access, and I was always getting through things because I'm a willful person and I can make shit happen. But I was always wondering, like, am I missing some things? And then when we looked at the data, it was like, yes, this is directly correlated to XYZ problems. So it'll be cool when we go into it. But here's what I really wanted to share today. So, and I'm interested I'm excited to share this. So this past week, and I know we've talked about this before, and it was maybe even, prior to this week as well, but this week especially, I had terrible sleep. Like, I'm talking about some horrible sleep disturbances, and my recovery scores were just
I saw.
crap.
I thought it was because of the training.
Well, so here's where it gets interesting. So for those of you who don't know, Ruben and I both have a Whoop band. Shout out to Whoop. It's dope. And we are on a team together. And so we can see each other's data all the time. And
We hold each other accountable.
Yes, exactly. And for those of you also who don't know, Whoop it's basically a fitness tracker. It can track our strain. It tracks our sleep quality. It tracks our heart rate variability. It tracks our resting heart rate. Some of you may know what those words mean. Some of you may not. Google's your best friend. Go check it out. But basically, what it's telling you every day is how ready you are to train and to perform. The majority of the data is based on your heart rate variability. That's the key indicator on whether you are ready to perform or not. And typically, not in all cases, if you have a higher heart rate variability or HRV, you are better recovered and better ready to perform. And if you have a lower one, it's better if you take a rest day, recover, and stuff like that. And, for the longest time, either of us really didn't know what HRV is or how it works or why it's important and why these things actually matter. And it actually was starting to frustrate me because, I'm paying for this thing monthly, and it's like, well, my mindset was, and I know this is your mindset too, that I'm just if my schedule says I'm going to train these days and I'm going to rest these days, then I'm going to train these days and rest these days no matter what. That's just what it's going to be. And that's a very, classic way of training, of performing, prior to these things, the ability to have HRV at your hands without going to a doctor or going to a specialist that had special technology to track these things. That's kind of how you did it. That's why periodization existed, because they were like, well, okay, we know the human doesn't react well to constant linear progression in their training. So we're going to plug in these rest days, sort of at random, not fully at random. There's some give and take there. And if you're a coach who's been training athletes for a long time, you can kind of know when your athlete's depleted or not. But for the most part, it's kind of just like, well, we've seen this work, so it's most likely going to work for you. So this is where I started to notice where this started to become important to me was I was having terrible sleep this week. I would wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning with just wired and having horrible thoughts. And it wasn't that it was debilitating anxiety or anything like that, but it was just really negative thoughts that were super irrational. And it would take me 20, 30, maybe more to go back to sleep. And then I would now wake up rested, and my scores were just going down and down and down.
Oh.
And this is where it was funny because what I noticed was that what I was saying to myself was, I'm having really bad recovery scores on my Whoop data. And I'm saying to myself, oh, I'm having really bad scores because I'm sleeping poorly, right? I was like, oh, it's just because I slept bad, but I felt fine. I was like, all right, I'm just going to go work out because that's what I'm supposed to do. I feel fine. And the Whoop is only saying this because I have bad sleep. But then I realized something, which was, or because I have really bad scores is the reason I'm having bad sleep. You know what I mean? It's because my HRV is poor. It's because my recovery is really shit that I'm having really poor sleep. That's the whole point of tracking these things and being aware of them, because when you have poor recovery, when you are under recovered or overtrained, which I don't necessarily think I was overtrained. I think I was more under recovered. One of the side effects can be really poor sleep habits and patterns. You know what I mean? And that was the first trigger of oh, maybe I've been looking at this all wrong. Maybe I'm not really maybe I haven't really been paying attention to why this tool is actually useful. And we've only had it for a few months, but maybe I wasn't really taking advantage of what that data was offering as much before. And so I started to look into it and kind of dig deeper into HRV and what it means and how it works. And then I came by this phrase in that article I sent you, which was, I think, if I remember off the top of my head, actually, I don't need to. I can just pull this up because it's right here.
Only we had like an assistant bring it up for us immediately.
Yo, one day, bro, we'll have our own young Jamie. Don't you worry.
It's like
Well,
the folks had to wait. Sorry, folks, but just so you know, HRV depends on age, one. So if it's too high, it's bad, and if it's too low, it's bad, depending on your age. That's what I call
well,
a graph.
Well, HRV is dependent on
Many variables.
the individual. It's strictly on the individual. Even in the same age group, like it can change based on who you are as a person.
Right.
And what's great about these types of tools now that lets you track this all day is in a month's time you can learn kind of what your base is, right? You'll learn what your base HRV is at that point, and so you can really move from there. I'll also state that I'm an idiot who knows nothing about anything, so don't get your science from me, kids. Go do your own research. Go listen to people who study this all the time. This is absolute.
Having doctors and stuff and professors and stuff to explain this stuff, but for now, we're not there yet.
No, this is just me talking about the few articles that I've read and things that I found interesting, and just based on my own personal history, how I'm making sense of it. And if that's entertaining and interesting to you, well, God bless. So yeah, anyway, yes, the words that were coined in this article was HRV guided endurance training. And when I read that, that just lit a spark in me that would say, oh, so there's actually a way you can use this to guide the way you train versus the old school way of you create your program and you follow that program to a T. And so I started digging in a little bit deeper, and it makes total fucking sense, bro. So they've actually done research in this, where they've taken, and I'll make sure we link some of those studies in there as well. This article also shares a bunch of these studies, so if you want to go deeper, you can go deeper. The article, by the way, is from Simple Faster called "Interpreting HRV Trends in Athletes: High Isn't Always Good and Low Isn't Always Bad." It's a great article, awesome read, well written. But anyway, so I started to go deeper into this, and basically what HRV guided endurance training means is using your HRV or your recovery score, now that you have things like Oura Ring or Whoop to gather that, to base how you're going to train day to day. Meaning that, and they've done studies on this. So for example, and the study I'm about to quote was actually from a Thomas Delore video, or Thomas DeLauer, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he actually mentioned the study, which is they took two groups of skiers, professional skiers, and they had one group, which was the control group, do training. Well, first they tested their VO2 max. They tested a lot of biomarkers to get a baseline of where everyone was, right? And they found that they took the control group that just had a coach give them a training program and follow those training programs. And then they had another group of skiers who were strictly training based on their HRV scores, meaning that if they had a high HRV, they would go harder in their training. They would just do a lot more output, go a lot harder. If they had lower HRV, they would, like, let's say it was like a little bit lower, it wasn't too drastic, they would kind of go through the motions or have a lighter day or use less weight or run in a lighter zone. If it was red, they would just or if it was like really low, they would just do some recovery stuff. And if it was like that 2 days in a row, they would take an entire day off. And what they found was that afterwards, the group that had, mind you, these are professional skiers. The group that was controlled, that just did the coaching program, they found a 2.5 increase percent increase in their overall score, in their overall biomarkers. And the group that just did HRV-based training had an increase in 2.7%. Now, the difference there is marginal, right? It's 0.2% increase in the HRV group. But you also gotta take into account that these are world-class athletes. Like, these are the people at the top. So their margin for improvement is already pretty low. So the fact that even in that case, just training based off of HRV and not and no professional coaching, just based on their own data, they still had a better outcome than this other group. That's an important thing to consider. And there are other studies that they've done as well to take into account HRV versus program training. And in those other studies that are quoted in this article, you find that HRV comes out on top. And so, and again, I kept digging more into it. And another thing that they found was, what's interesting with HRV training is that the reason it started to become really explosive is because of the longevity it brings for athletes, right? Because if you're not, what they found is that HRV is directly correlated to the quality of your bodily functions and your ability to lower inflammation, right? And I forgot, I think it was Peter Attia who said this. I may be misquoting, but the reason we die is because of inflammation, right? Like, if we could remove inflammation from our body, we would live pretty much forever. But essentially what happens is our inflammation goes up and up and up and up and up, and our ability to recover gets less and less and less and less and less. And then at some point we pass on. So the ability for, if you have consistently higher rates of HRV, your ability to recover is higher from your workouts. And recovery is what creates muscle growth, performance growth, all of these things. And with hard training days using HRV than using pre-pro. Cool. So I forgot what the fuck I was talking about.
All good, man. For folks that don't know, Zoom kind of pooped out on us.
Zooming out. So we're just trying to catch up. But basically, what I was trying to say was that what they found over time is that people who did HRV-based training or HRV-guided training were able to get in more hard sessions, more good training sessions than people who had programmed their training, right? So overall, what they found was, typically if you follow your HRV, you will have more days of strong recovery, and therefore you'll be able to have more days of good training. So that being said, what I'm gonna now begin to experiment with is actually using the Whoop for what it's intended for, its intended purpose, which is following along my my scores and training based off of that. So, which is also going to be really interesting to me because I don't know what that's going to look like. I've never done it before, but my assumption, the way I'm going to go into it is, those days that I'm green, I'm really going to start taking advantage of that. Meaning that, like, I'm going to get my runs in, I'm going to get my workouts in. I'm going to commit to going hard on that day, because I know that probably the next day I'm not going to be green. So even if I technically had a workout scheduled for that next day, if I'm not in the green, or at least in the higher yellow stage, I'm not going to work out. And then when I am in the red, or when I am low in yellow, I'm really going to commit to doing breath work, taking cold baths, doing whatever those real recovery practices are meant to do. um, to then counteract and then move forward back into a green state where I could do some strong output. And they found that on all accounts, on all biomarkers, that this has really improved people's performance, people's aesthetics, people's ability to do to train harder and get bigger, whatever your goal is. So yeah,
That's funny
that's
because like you making me look at my data and if folks are watching on YouTube. It's kind of what my data looks like for the week. So I only have one green day, and most days are like high yellow.
mm-hmm.
But you can see Monday, I took a rest day. Obviously, I was only at 7 strain, which is not very high. And then Tuesday, I must have got good sleep because I was at 80%. So I was in the green. But then I went back into the yellow and have been in the yellow ever since.
Mm.
But I mean, the lowest day I had was Thursday, which was 43%.
Yeah.
So folks, if you're watching, that's Whoop gives you pretty good data and tells you where you're at. But I still like obviously fight through.
Yeah.
Thank God I hadn't had a red day in a while. And last weekend when we went to the cabin, I didn't bring the Whoop. I wanted no electronics, period,
Mm.
off the Whoop. So I don't. It would have been interesting to see like what it is being in nature, no TV, no electronics, to see how that would help with recovery. But I didn't take it. But I
Yeah.
felt amazing. So
Yeah.
what you get. But it's
Yeah.
definitely a great tool. I'm really interested to hear your results from this. So really waiting on that, Jesse.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I will definitely keep you updated as the week goes by and as we go into next week, like how that's changing my performance, how it's changing my scores on Whoop, all those things. So it's gonna be super fun, I think. Um,
Get that sleep, bro.
yeah, I'm
Same time
sure.
every night. I noticed that when there was like a few weeks ago, I was going through my own shit and
Mm-hmm.
it's horrible. And I realized it partially because my sleep schedule was all wonky. It was like one day I would go to sleep at like 10 p.m., which is usually the time I'll go to sleep. Then the next time I'll go to sleep at like 12:31 because I couldn't sleep.
Mm.
And I was just all over the place. And apparently, like when with recovery, like you need to keep your body needs to know what to do at a given time. So like
Mm.
it wants to follow a circadian rhythm, especially as a man. Our bodies run on a circadian rhythm. So it's best because your hormones are already like, it's time for sleep, bro. And when you're having that, it could definitely ruin a lot of other factors inside your body. So
Mm. Yeah,
definitely,
man.
man.
And so you're going to be doing 2 24-hour fasts a week now?
Yeah, but so I'm like not doing 24, it's 20 to 24. So depending on the day of training, depending on
And
when
how you feel?
exactly how I feel, recovery scores, just taking all that into account. I still think fasting is definitely not going away. Still doing
Mm-hmm.
teens almost every day. Today I didn't. I was just like it's Sunday. I'm gonna enjoy a little bit of creamer in my coffee this morning. Some keto creamer that we just bought. That's very delicious. And I was just like, yep, I'm gonna drink that today. So sometimes it's okay to not do it.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
I'm fine. It's not like I'm feeling anything, except it's very hot here. So I'm definitely feeling that. You feel like not doing anything when it's this hot. But other than that, like, I've been eating pretty clean. Like, I don't know if you've been watching Karina and I's story. Like yesterday, we went to the beach, and because most of the time on the beach, I miss having like Cheetos and like a nice big fat sandwich, maybe peanut butter and jelly. Like this is the stuff, you bring like a sweetened like orange drink called Tang. I don't know if you know what Tang is, but for my folks, like Tang was basically this artificial orange drink that did not taste anything like orange juice, but it was absolutely delicious when I was a kid. I used to demolish that. That's what we used to bring. But yesterday, instead, I brought a whole fucking chicken. Whole chicken to the beach, and I was tearing it apart with my hands. I had napkins, don't worry, and the ocean was right there to clean my hands. But I had a whole chicken. We had some siete style chips. So all this stuff was healthy, fruit. all that good stuff because, running in the beach is definitely a challenge. Jesse, I highly recommend it, just to train your feet to be able to do different terrains as we'll
Did
be
you,
in the future.
I know you wanted to dive into that. Did you run barefoot or you ran with shoes?
Yes. So we went and I had a moment of weakness. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Cam Haynes would be like, that's a moment of weakness. You were being weak. Because I was like, oh, cool. When we left in the morning, I was like, I can run in the morning or run when we get there. That'd be interesting, right? New area, new place. It's about 45, 50 minutes away. So I didn't run in the morning. I was like, I'll run when I get there. But then when got there, there was so many people on the beach and a lot of kids. And I'm like, I'm terrified of just, bum rushing a kid because I was not paying attention. I was like, I don't know if I should run here. Like, is it bad to run on the sand? The sand was like, it was different levels. So obviously I will
Mm-hmm.
different like elevations and like,
Mm-hmm.
slower and all these other factors or something. I'm being super logical about it. And
Yeah,
he goes, just run. I was like, you're not gonna want to do it when you get home. I was just like, that's true. I mean, I would push myself and still do it, but I was just like, do you want to? Like, you're in the beach. It's beautiful here. We're in half
yeah,
moon
yeah.
day. It's just fucking do it. And it's a new terrain. You get to experience something different. Just try it out. So, I just ate shit, like disregarded that part of my brain that was like, just wait till you get home, and then you'll just run on the same pavement you've been doing. I was like, nah, let's do it. So I had a little bit of fruit. Like I had like two pieces of pineapple to kind of feel me because the sun is beating on us. It was like 90 something degrees. I put on my hat. I threw on the headphones. I'm listening to Iron John as I run. It's very motivating.
Yes.
And I did it, bro. It was an amazing run. I felt very strong. I did not feel weak at all. At certain points when the elevation gained, like I was using those quads, bro. Oh my God, I felt it.
So
Like
wait, did you go barefoot or you ran with shoes?
really barefoot, no shoes.
Wow.
I just made sure my form was correct. So I was running a little slower than I usually would. I was doing about 11 minutes a mile versus my 9 minutes and 20 something seconds. So I slowed it down. It was great to run in that cold water. Sometimes the water would come. It was just nice to run there. Um, a guy when I was running, he like put his finger up at me, like kind of like to give me that good job, man, keep it going. And I was just like, thank you. You know what I mean? Just had my shades on and my run. It's beautiful. The water's there. I was breathing through my nose, out my mouth. It was gorgeous, man. I felt very
Yeah,
strong. Even at
sounds
the end
fun.
when it told me like you're at your third mile, and I was like, I could keep going. Like I'm feeling strong. And I thought I was gonna be super sore today, but I'm not at all. Like my legs are completely fine. I'm
Yeah.
rolled. I took a Jesse.
Well, yes, foam rolling is key, bro. But yeah, I mean, you're running on the beach, so your joints are feeling fabulous. Like I know you're don't feel that your quads are probably exploding, but your joints are very very happy because they're like this is the softest thing we can ever run on.
It was nice, man. Just hearing the slap slap of your feet hitting the wet sand because I wasn't running on
Mm-hmm.
the dry sand. I was on the wet.
Mm,
Um,
sure.
and it's funny when the water just comes up like far and you're running in it, like it's like sludge. Like I have
Yeah,
like, you're like moving your body in weird ways. So it was really fun. And I saw a
that's
few other
awesome.
people running on the beach. And I was just like, I see you. Um, but definitely would do it again. I loved
That's
running.
cool.
It was nice to change it up a little bit from our typical like, 3 miles. Next week it would be my first 4 miler. But yeah, I really like running on the beach. And it was nice to like, shut the little bitch up inside and be like, hey, stay over there. We're still gonna do this.
Yeah.
Got to be thankful for Karina for giving me the little push. She's like, go do it. Have a good time. So that was nice to have that and just like after, eat a nice. I ate half a chicken after, not even the whole thing, but half.
Bro, I don't know. Like, I don't think you know this, but I think this is the second or third time you've talked about eating a whole chicken on this podcast. What is with what is it about these whole chickens, bro? Because like, I've made chickens before, I've cooked them. That's a lot of meat, bro.
I know, I don't know, man. I guess when I was carnivore, that month I did carnivore, like strictly carnivore, and I had meat. Like you get bored of freaking eating ground beef every day. So
Sure, yeah.
I would just get a whole entire chicken and be like, this should suffice. Like I'm getting enough protein. There's fatty parts to it. Make sure I eat the skin for all the like biotin and collagen and all these beautiful things that are in the skin. Just eat it with my hands. And I love that, like feeling like you're eating with your hands. You're not using
Mm.
any utensils. It's kind of messy. It's a little bit dirty. You have a tissue to the side, but you just chowing down. I feel like a Viking because when we watch Vikings, they're always eating chicken with their hands. I don't know. I feel like a boss. Just
Feel
like
like a boss eating chicken with your hands. I
yeah,
like that. I like
can't
it.
do it.
I get
Can't
it.
do it with a whole cow, but we saw a Chef's Table episode, a barbecue episode where they make a whole pig, and
Damn.
it's in I think Charleston, South Carolina, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I told Karina, I was like, we have to go with a bunch of friends and just order the whole pig. Like it's called the whole hog. Um, but yeah, it's there in Charleston. So I was like, once coronavirus is finished, we need to take a trip out there just to eat at that spot because they offer a whole pig and just enjoy and chow down on that.
I don't know if I could ever do that, bro. Pig be messing up my stomach sometimes.
I know it messed up mine, but occasionally it's all right.
Just a good little bit. I like bacon though, you know what I'm saying? Um, and so what's your nutrition looking like now? Is it same old carnivore-ish or is there anything different?
Not same carnivore-ish as I mentioned. But I've been adding more like this week we had I wanted to go back to my Puerto Rican roots. So I had some rice and beans this week with some meat.
Wow.
We cooked, I love something called tostones. If y'all don't know, it's green plantains for you white people out there. No, I'm kidding.
I make some good tostones, bro. You know this.
Because I told you how, bro.
That's also true. I can't deny that.
But we had Karina and I came up with these tostone burgers. So you use the
Mm.
like the plantain as instead of bread. So we made like these little sliders. I had that this week. So it has been carb heavy, but I feel like my energy hasn't shifted. I'm still primarily eating more meat than anything else. Um, so it is pretty much
Are
carnivore-ish.
you carb cycling? Like, are you only doing it like post or pre-workout?
2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
With the exception of my blueberries before I go work out. That's like my favorite thing to do now. It's like a ritual.
It's a
Like
pre-workout.
take a nice little I scoop up with my hand how many blueberries, clean them, pop them in my mouth, and like 10 or 15 minutes later, I go for my run or I go for my workout. Unless I'm doing a fasted workout in the morning, because sometimes my days are just busy. So I'd rather just get the workout over with. So then I'll have
Mm.
it after. Um, but yeah, I can tell the difference if I have just a little bit, just a little bit. Like I feel much stronger when I run or when I work out if I
It
do.
makes sense though too, from uh, like where your people come from. You know what I mean? It comes
That.
from a place that's fairly carb heavy. So
Yeah.
um, bio individuality. Although
Yeah.
there are people who say that's not true, like that doesn't exist. I don't know why they say that, but at least in this case, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, listen,
Because I'm the opposite. Like if I have carbs, I know this about myself. Like if I have a good amount of carbs, and especially if I have them consistently, like I feel it right away. But my people are from where the ground freezes in the winter. You know what I'm saying? And we got long winters too. So that meat and fat is my happy place.
I always thought of that, like maybe trying out like higher carb. I mean, that's what I grew up on, right? Like a lot of rice, beans, um, different varieties of greens my mom would make, and meat, like and mostly pork. Because if you think like my grandparents, my aunts, my older aunts, when they lived in Puerto Rico, pig was like the cheapest food that they can get in terms
Mm,
of meat. So they eat a lot of pig, which is funny because when I eat like pig fat, so we talked about this, I always get
mm,
a stomach ache. But if I have like pork shoulder, which in our culture is called pernil, when we have that, like I'm completely fine. I can eat loads of that shit and I'm fine. But that's because,
Mm,
like, once again, by bringing that bio individuality, I grew up eating that. My body already knows how to handle it. It's like, oh,
mm,
you know this, we remember this. So digesting it is probably not an issue. But when I'm having pure pork fat, like that's not. It's very common in like Korean dishes, right? You get the pork buns, and it's usually
mm,
made with pork fat. They're used to that probably, but like my body, we just have the pork shoulder, which is a lot of muscle meat,
mm.
fat on the side. So
I
there's
love
like these
pork.
things that you bring, right? Me too. But
Mm.
there's these factors that we have to bring in, and I think, like I looked at, you saw, I don't know if you saw the picture that I posted, but I felt super lean. I mean, mind you, I
Mm,
fasted and I just ran. Like that was Karina was like, "Oh, you should take a picture now because you look good, right?"
mm,
A picture, but I was just like, I don't look like this all the time. Like, yeah, it
mm,
looks cool. Like my six pack is almost showing and all that, but that's not how I look 90% of the time, especially after I eat.
mm.
Right? There's that little pudge comes out because your belly is full.
Yeah, sure.
But it's just those I still felt like, oh, like even though I like upped up my carbs this week, by eating rice and beans, having the tostones throughout the week, and the chip, for instance, the cassava chips, that's definitely high in carbs. I was completely fine. So I think there's something to say about that. And I felt
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, that works for some people. Like I remember watching, it was really funny, and I'm sure it pissed a lot of people off, and I think it did when I started looking at the comments. But I was watching a Cameron Haynes video with this guy named Nick, who I think was one of his trainers, and basically what they were talking about was like Cam was somewhere around like 14-15% body fat, and that basically what they found was that he was not eating enough, and so they upped his food, they upped his, especially their carbs, his carbs, they upped his carbs a lot, and like he took out like pasta with marinara sauce, like mixed nuts, banana, like it was like regular ass food. But apparently, since he started eating that way, he had gone, below 10% body fat, having increased his calories a lot. Um, and that was something that came up for me too, because I think that also has to do with why my recovery was so poor, was because I'm fasting so much. And on top of that, like eating fatty cuts of meat really fill you up. You know what I mean? Um, and so I was finding myself like really just being like, oh yeah, like and also, you can relate to this. Like when you're fasting, often like eating, you get full really, really quickly,
Yep.
like you just don't want to eat. Like it's just not part of your existence. So, and that's something I started to realize was like, yo, maybe I'm not eating enough. Like maybe literally I'm just not eating enough, because I'll have a window of like 2 to 4 hours of where I'll have like two meals, mainly just made up of uh, like the most dense food that I eat is nuts and meat. Those are probably the most dense foods that I eat, and and then that's it. And then I just fucking keep grinding, keep going.
Right.
And I think I've had some issues with that. So I still don't think I can be having too many carbs, because I feel that right away. But
Yeah, but
having to having to increase my overall calories in my eating window has something that I noticed I've had to do. And since I've done it, I've noticed uh, like a shift in that as well. But I only started like doing that a few days ago. So we'll see coming
yeah,
into
but
next week what that
just
looks
to
like.
let everyone know, like when I have carbs, I never have them in the morning because I've experimented with that multiple times. I always feel like shit. My mornings are always like high protein, high fat. If there's carbs, it's probably just berries. So very
Mm-hmm.
low carbs still.
Mm-hmm.
But those rice and beans days, the tostone days, all after 5. I try to not eat after 7, latest 7:30. That's like my maximum because like we talked about this before, like feeling full to go to bed, never, it always messes me up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I do have my carbs always at night. I stay away from sugar as much as possible. Yes, it comes in every now and then. Yes, I'd want a little bit of ice cream or whatever the case is completely fine. It won't freaking kill you every now and then. It's okay. I know some people are like those carnivore groups that I'm in, they are like savages. You say like I'm gonna have a cheat day, they're like, why? This is the way to go. And I'm just like, this is becoming a cult. It's okay every now and then, especially if you want to enjoy it with your partner, you want to enjoy it with some friends, you're at a party, you're at a wedding, fucking go for it. Like I know you talked about like one time you caught Paul Check, who's like
Yeah.
the fucking father of all this, like just eating a piece of pie. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's okay to have it now and then. It's just a matter of like getting yourself away from that addiction of it and having it every day. So don't have sugar. I stay away from bread, very far away from bread. The most like carb heavy thing I will have is that rice with the beans, but that's something that my body probably can handle because it was so ingrained in my culture before my time and when I was a baby. So my body is already used to like utilizing those minerals and the nutrients from there, and then just doing what it has to with it. um so it's my food, it's the way I can do it. Like if you
And
just
it's also like you said, it's in your soul. You know what I mean? I think there's something to that. At some point, it's like you're just doing it because it makes you. It
feed
gives you a feeling. It gives you a nostalgic feeling and of happiness, and you're not fucking shoving your face with beans and rice because you're sad and depressed and you want to feel something. You're doing it because you love your culture and you love what that food means to you, and so you're just enjoying it.
exactly.
I completely understand that.
I don't have it every day like I used to. When I was a kid, that was what we ate. It was cheap. Growing up as a poor kid, I don't have it every day. I have it once every other month sometimes. Sometimes we won't even have rice for weeks. But then it'll come to me. I'll talk to my mom or something and ask her what she's cooking. I'll be like, that sounds good right now. Now I'll go make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm not having it every day. So that's also a big caveat that I want to mention. Like I'm not having it. Most of my days are just a little bit of veggies, meat, and that's pretty much it. Some eggs, which Jesse can't have no more.
Yes. I can't have eggs for a year. It's one of my strong sensitivities. The yolk and the whites, if you were curious, I cannot
Wow.
have.
Both?
Both, yeah, both are jacked up for me.
Dang.
But you know what I was really happy about was that I don't have any nut sensitivities, like zero. Like my body handles them perfectly. So I was like,
Wow.
fuck yeah! I went and bought a bunch of different nuts because I would have sworn. Like I think I even said this on the last podcast. Like I would have sworn that I had some form of nut sensitivities, but my body handles them well. Um, yeah, and with that, so like for me, my diet's gonna start looking pretty paleo, like true paleo though. So it's just gonna be like nuts, seeds, veggies, and meat for no dairy, no eggs, no no legumes or lectins, like no beans and stuff like that. Um, it's been fine. I already started it. I mean, yesterday we had our last hoorah before because Boomer wants me to do it for 30 days of strict paleo. And so that's what I'll be doing I guess starting today, you could say. Um, and so yesterday we had a grandma slice with pepperoni, followed by some Shake Shack
Oh
and
my
fries.
God.
And then I got myself some donuts.
You
And
definitely you were all sad dieted out. Sad.
I was sad. But it was crazy. I had some, and shout out to Bio Optimizers, Wade Lightheart. I had some of his digestive enzymes before eating this meal, and I felt great. I mean, I didn't feel great. I definitely felt like my insulin skyrocketing through the
Yeah.
roof, and that
Yep.
I felt the food. Val really felt the food. Like she was sitting on the couch, just like cracked out. Like she was just not talking. She was like, "Yeah, this food's really it's in me right now." It's like I know, but I woke up today, took a great dump, and just moved on. Like there was no lingering, and I think it had to do with those enzymes, which is great. Um,
It's good to have those on deck, like whether
yeah, man.
digestive enzymes, charcoal can help.
Yeah.
Those things.
Yeah, and so I'll be going paleo for the next 30 days. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm super excited with all the supplements I got. Some of these things I've never taken before, so we'll see how it goes. And otherwise, training has been, like I said, my week was pretty jacked up because of my sleep. My recovery scores were pretty terrible. So I'm excited to see this week moving forward doing an HRV, a guided endurance program, how that's going to affect everything moving forward. But otherwise, it's been if nothing less, it's been a very insightful week for nutrition, for training, for all things. And so this week, I get to start on a new journey with switching all these things up. And that's the beauty of us being so far out from this race, I think, that we still have so much time to experiment and play and do different things.
Right. Especially like as we like a month out, I think we better be locked in and ready
Yeah,
to.
exactly.
That's it. There's no experimenting because that will ruin the race, like
Yeah.
performance during the race. So it's just like, put the brakes and keep doing the same thing we're doing, whatever's working. What's nice, I feel like we're almost dialed in, dude. Like there's gonna be,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but these last 2-3 mile runs that I've done, no breaks, just straight through. And I still feel like I have more energy in the tank after I'm done. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting stronger. I'm pretty good, right? I mean, until I get to 4 mile, we'll see how that looks. But like for now, I'm just like, oh, I got this. Like I have my rhythm. I know how to breathe. Like I know what I'm paying attention to. My form is right. I feel good. I know what to do after so that I'm not sore tomorrow. Like all these things are all the puzzle pieces are coming together. So,
Amen.
yes, sir.
All right, brother. Well, is there anything you want to leave these people with?
Mm, well, it's Labor Day, so please enjoy all the meals, all the meat, because it's barbecue season. We're about to eat some barbecue right now. But yeah, rest up this week. I know for me it's gonna be a hell of a busy week, but I'm ready to take it on. So get after it, as Jocko would say.
Go get some.
Go get some. What about you?
Um, yeah, man. Enjoy, keep grinding, keep hustling. We appreciate the viewership. We see it going up. We really, I say this every week because I really appreciate it. I'm happy that people are enjoying whatever the fuck it is we're doing here, and like listening to these two numbskulls talk about their journey towards these races. And I think it's just going to get more and more exciting. And I know we've promised that we would have guests back on, and that is a thing that is happening. We are going to have guests coming on very shortly. That being said, we also, for those who like what we're doing with the Spartan Journal, like getting it every week, if it does anything for you and you want to keep that going, please let us know, because something that we're thinking about is actually shifting towards doing this every other week and having guests in between on those episodes. And potentially, because we don't want this to get stale or feel like we're just saying the same thing every week. So figuring that maybe every other week we'll have more to talk about, more data to discuss. But if you guys do like this and you feel like it's a good start or end to your week, or gives you perspective on your own training week to week, if that's something you want, then please let us know. But if we do not hear from any of you, then we're going to assume you don't give a fuck what we do, and you'll just go along with whatever it is we do, because you love us unconditionally, no matter who we are, what we say, when we do it. So thank you. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, y'all. Peace.
Peace.